Welcome to 10 p.m. with Galinsky. It only happens here, Monday through Friday, on Facebook live from Alphabet City in New York, New York. Tonight, my guest is Clayton Patterson. I'm going to bring Clayton in from the green room in a moment. But I want to give a few shout outs to some of the supporters and our simulcast tonight. Terry Schnook is in the chat, Bobby's in the chat, Richard's in the chat, James in the chat. Shout out to the Stage Network, watchstage.com. They are simulcasting us tonight. VIPTalentConnect.com, ActorTrade.com, and Nuchas, Empanadas, Nuchas.com. All supporters of tonight's show. Big thanks for their attention. And tomorrow night, got some great guests this week. Tomorrow night, Lisa Jessie Peterson, Drama Desk Award nominee, will be on the show. She's performed in over 300 prisons doing her one-woman show, The Peculiar Patriot. And then on Wednesday, professional college football coach for over 40 years, Coach Frank Buddy Leonard will be on talking about getting the best out of people. And then on Thursday, Tony Award-winning actress and film and television actress Marianne Plunkett. But right now, let's welcome to 10 p.m. with Galinsky, Clayton Patterson. Clayton, welcome. Clayton's hey, there he is. Clayton, where are you, baby? Clayton's there. He is. The grand
entrance. Took care of the wife there for a minute, so I'm back.
The grand entrance.
That's right. You thought I was reading the stock market, right? It says buy Hawaii. Buy Hawaii. Tip today. Buy Hawaii.
So I'm with this counterculture influencer, capturer of moments, who's been documenting the Lower East Side, East Village, Loisaida, LES, Alphabet City, whatever you want to call it, downtown for the past 40 years, 35 years.
Since 79.
Since 79.
Your math is better than mine.
And you got me excited to have you here because you have documented so many things that my short time here, 32 years, that I've gotten to see. Let's get right away. I just want to ask you.
Before that, I've heard so much about you from so many people. It's funny how we never crossed paths. We did. I knew that Pseudo TV because of the Taylor Metered Pink Cadillac show, but also David Leslie talked about you a lot and his performances and things. You were telling me you boxed with him. So it's really a grand pleasure. And then I met you at Bellevue, I think the World Trade Organization department or whatever. Yeah. We were both part of that.
We met
a lot.
All the special places, Bellevue Hospital, Rikers Island Jail, the Tombs, you name it, we've been there.
That's right.
So I'm going to welcome a few people into the chat here. Tammy T's here, Lauren's here, Captain Siemens here, Jack Fuller, Turco Ono's here, Crystal Laura, Patricia Whitcast, Amy, Betty Nye, Thomas Blonsky, Katha Cato, Einhorn's in the house. You know Andrew Einhorn, the photographer downtown? You should meet him if you haven't met him. So my question to you is, what got you started? What was the moment, or what was
1972? Elsa, I was going out with Elsa. We didn't get married until a few years ago because I never wanted to get married. I always loved her and wanted to be with her, but never wanted to be married. But the whole thing changed. But 1972, she brought me a camera. They used to sell cameras and things to suck you into banks and drugstores and places like that. So for $25, you got a Pentax 125, and that lasted me for years. 35 millimeter reflex.
And what did she say? Like, hey, Clayton, I think you got an eye, or maybe you'll like this, or what was it? Was there a moment or an event or a person that when you shot, it clicked for you? And, oh my God, I'm digging this.
She was trying to reform me and lead me down the path of goodness. And I'm not sure it worked. Half of it worked. So
worked.
She got me out of the jungle and into the forest. So. Okay,
great. Somebody in chat, a good friend of mine, just said, it looks like a split screen of the before and after.
I can see that. Especially when you put on your glasses. You need your glasses.
Well, in honor of that, I'm going to put on, what I should be wearing for an interview with you, so I don't get my butt kicked, and so I look authentic. I'm doing my Clayton thing now.
You know who'd be good for you to have on your show is your neighbor from Campos, Coach East. He was the president of the Satan Center Nomads. That was the last street gang in Lower East Side that wore colors. And he's your neighbor. He's a very nice guy. After his last stretch in 18 years, he kind of calmed down. He's like very cool guy.
Got to introduce me. There's a couple of introductions you need to make for me.
Yeah. We need to share the wealth.
introductions and really fun people. Lady Bunny is in the chat room. She says hello.
Oh, I know. Yeah, Lady Bunny. I was photographing for the Pyramid Club basement. She was did a night called oh, I keep forgetting it. Crash? No, not Crash, but with Jeff Brenner at the Tunnel.
Uh-huh.
Jeff used to do a night called Culture. I think it was with a K.
Let's jump into a couple photographs right now and just take a look at some of the work that you've done.
All right.
This is nothing you've done, but this is my standby. This is, of course, the promo. This is like, I just went on and I found this kind of like collage of a lot of your work, and some of these.
Okay, well, here we have a lot of the front door pictures. I've taken thousands of pictures in front of my door, and there's a picture of Cochise with the gun, and he's the guy from Satan City Nomads. There's Satan City Nomads and the Secret Bachelors. Secret Bachelors were from Avenue D, and yeah, there was Konstantin K. Kosminski. Yeah, a lot of those young kids. They now have, some of these guys were kids then and have grandkids now, if you can believe that. So it's a multi-generational thing.
Sure.
Here's CBGB's. That's a classic, of course. That's back from, probably 86, 87. I think there was a benefit that time. No, this was probably the hardcore shows, the hardcore matinees. I used to do them on Sunday for all of 87. They got a lot of the hardcore bands, Sick of It All, Side by Side, Rest in Pieces, Reagan Youth. I mean, the whole War Zone. It was a very, very interesting and great period.
I actually just noticed one of my friends is in that picture, Judge Cal. I didn't know.
Which one is he?
Judge Cal is standing. He's got the black T-shirt cut off, with a guy with the white.
Oh yeah.
Cal right there.
Right. Did he die?
Yes, he passed away about 7 years ago. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I had a picture of him sitting in front of a door, in front of the gate down there. Yeah, and then he passed away. Right. Yeah, he was a well-liked, well-known Lower East Side guy.
So you got a few celebs in the archive. Tell me what.
That was Anthony Bourdain. I was on his last show, Lower East Side. There, I'm wearing the T-shirt, the Wild Style and Tattoo Messe. I've been with that show. It's going on 25 years. Yeah, Bourdain was actually a very nice guy. I hooked him up with 5 people from Lower East Side. You know, some skaters, Taylor, you know, regular people. And he was a very nice guy. And I had a dope bag called Toilet, which was from 3rd and B, I believe, 3rd and C. And that was a famous brand from back in those days. And he used to do heroin down here. And he came down and he wanted to see that bag. So I found that bag for him because I have a dope bag collection.
Talk about walking down memory lane looking for a dope bag from 30 years ago. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, and then on the front of the door is a little, that square is Red Ed, Eddie Braddock III, now Carol Ann Braddock. That was one of his pieces.
Great. Let's there's another one with Anthony, and who's that? The guy from
the Cro-Mags. That's Harley Flanagan. I knew his mother really well. And Ray from Ray's Candy Store.
Ray's Candy Store, amazing spot.
Yeah.
And there's you. There's you, baby.
Yeah. I think, Matt Dillon. Matt Dillon used to hang out in Lower East Side a lot. And we were the first people to make these caps, and we made custom caps. We did hand-signed caps, like on the custom one. Every time Matt Dillon made a movie, we made him a cap. Also ran the machinery. She was really good. And we changed the history of the baseball cap. We were the first people to go around the cap, take the embroidery off the front. When we started in 86, from a guy called Ben Booksinger, who was on Avenue A, he made these little baseball caps. And I found out you make any color you wanted. So I would get like a black top front and an orange front. And then I realized he did the jacket backs for the Savage Skull. So I realized he could draw with it. Oh, that's Gigi Allen.
Gigi Allen. I'm not going to leave that up too long because we have an all ages crowd here. But
okay,
Gigi, wow.
Yep.
Joe Coleman, right?
Joe Coleman and Jonathan Shaw. Yeah, that's Joe Coleman when he was very young back in the days. That's probably 87. Man, maybe it's later. Maybe it's 90. Painting in the Back by Ari Rusimov, the tattooed man. Jonathan Shaw became a famous tattoo artist, son of Artie Shaw. Joe Coleman has gone on and done really well. You can see a little rat there on his.
Artie Shaw, the jazz guy?
Yeah.
Oh, Artie Shaw. I grew up listening to Artie Shaw. My dad used to play Artie Shaw all the time.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So you get great shots of pretty odd and notoriously dangerous situations at times. What are your tips for others on, because you're known for this now. You're known for documenting and chronicling a time and place. How do you?
Well, certainly. I mean, for me, when I first came to New York in '79, was making it in Soho. I just hated that scene. It just was not me. And then I came to the Lower East Side, came to 161 Essex. Well, I'd always been on the Lower East Side, lived on the Bowery, lived at 325 Broome Street, same building as Keith Haring. But once I got to Essex Street, it was like I found home. And that was just marvelous. I just fell in love with the people. And, I integrated myself in the neighborhood by photographing in front of the door. I've taken thousands, well over 10,000 pictures in front of my door.
The front door is your front door of your home.
Yeah, and I take pictures in front of it and have
and you
for
published
decades.
a book, right?
I did a book called the Front Door Book. That's this book right here.
Nice.
Yeah.
So,
and it's just filled with all kinds of pictures of people from the Lower East Side. I say Lower East Side.
Lower East Side. Katha Cato has a question. Has the Lower East Side lost its edge? Is it still there?
Well, I mean, life moves on. It took me a long time to get to this adjustment period of kind of liking it. And I was going to go to Austria, but then, decided to stay. But yeah, I mean, the greatness of Lower East Side was cheap rent and inexpensive lifestyle. And that out of that came just probably 500 people that changed the history of America that came out of the
my audience. Yeah. Can you hear me?
And so, what I have now is bars and drunks. It's like spring break every weekend, so there's no real coffee shops to hang out in. I mean, I've met some new interesting people. There's like Jump Into the Light. They do this whole VR thing and AR thing. And so they're young and exciting and interesting. Young for me is 40 and below, I guess. I'm in my 70s, so young can be 50. You're young. You're a youngin'.
Are you, do you think there will ever be another, the East Village, the Lower East Side, downtown will be what it was before in any way? You think it's justified and that's it? There's no turning back.
I mean, once Bloomberg got through with sort of trashing New York in his way, making it into an international corporate place where all the cookie cutter, corporate stores. I mean, it really sort of gutted the whole thing. I think it's possible to be maybe an entertainment zone again but really, it's not really possible to pull yourself up by the bootstraps anymore and sort of discover yourself. I mean, you could work at a bar 2 nights a week and, maybe dance at the Pyramid. Maybe somebody like Lady Bunny at some point could talk about that. Working a couple of nights at the Pyramid would be enough to make you nut for the week. And, somebody like Lady Bunny got famous through the Pyramid and got a career that way. But to do that and to start off that way now, you really got to start off connected. You go to Yale, you get a master's, you get an art career. It used to come from the ground up. It was an immigrant neighborhood. I mean, look at all the different immigrants that came through here that contributed so much. The Jews, the Germans, the Lutherans, the Irish. I mean, so many people gave so much. And it was all cheap rent and inexpensive lifestyle. I mean, Jimi Hendrix lived down here, Jackson Pollock. I mean, Rothko had a studio on the Bowery. I mean, the genius that came out of here was huge and it's great. And now we're getting like the wealthy, the billionaires taking over the country and their kids are not it. They don't have the fever. Like Bush's kids are not going to change the world. They're not going to discover anything that's great. They're not going to, they're just rich kids that have no real drive. I mean, the people that came here with drive and passion. You came here with drive and passion. You came here to take a bite of the apple, baby. Get out of the way.
You sure
Come
did.
on, tell me the truth.
I sure did, man.
Of course.
Think, much like our good buddy Taylor Mead, I walked into the East Village and I saw something and felt something that I never felt and saw before. And Taylor said it was because it allowed him to feel anonymous. And he was right. I could walk into the East Village. You could light your leg on fire and no one would give you a second look. And until you started to maybe kick a poem while your leg was on fire, and then you could draw a crowd. And next thing you know, you were performing. So I fell in love with it from the beginning. I got some comments here in the chat. Elizabeth Harder's in the mix. Hi, Elizabeth. Ronnie Bruns is here. Do you know Ronnie?
Probably. I'm terrible with names. I'm better with faces. I got a photographic memory for faces.
Ronnie says LES is kind of frat now. John Trefero says gentrification removes the rawness of the past. Ronnie says, yeah, Bloomberg effed up many parts of Manhattan. And Amy Alt says, I think my mother dated Artie Shaw. Amy, find out for us if she did.
That could be.
That'd be nice to know. So what about access to people? Do you have to grow a long beard and look like an incredibly unique human being to get the kind of access you did, or what are some of the?
Well, it's strange. It's like, I went to there was a club. I went with somebody who was invited to do this, shoot this show, and I don't really do that much anymore. But he didn't really hook it up properly, so I was in the audience and I'm taking pictures, and it was for I think it's called the Gramercy Park Club or something. It's on like 23rd Street somewhere over there. Anyway, I'm taking pictures, no problem, and there's like few hundred kids with their cameras up there taking cell phone pictures, which are really just as high resolution as my camera.
Yeah.
And I get picked out and thrown out because I look like the professional. And it's like, give me a break, jackass. Come on. These kids are also doing video. They're capturing more than I am.
Well, don't you remember when you'd go to a club and either watch a poet or you'd watch a comedian, and you'd pull out a camera, or and when they were just starting, you'd take a picture, or you'd have a video, and they were like, "What are you doing? You can't take video of me. You can't take a picture of me. This is my performance." Now, it's impossible to stop people from filming, and nobody really cares anymore. Now it's about spread my name around.
Yeah, it can still be dangerous, but it's much more open. Actually, I have in a black book, one of my black books from the probably, I don't know, 89, 87. Lady Bunny says, "No more pictures." But I took pictures anyway.
I'm glad
I got fabulous pictures of Lady Bunny from that period. And, we all grew from that. That was our beginnings. That was our roots.
What are a couple of the most prized photos you've taken, if you can, off the top of your head? A couple of shots that you're really proud of, moments.
I would say for videos, the Tompkins Square Park police riot, that was kind of a big one for me. I don't know. I have just so many. Peter Quayloff's son PK, photographing Peter at the Pyramid Club was great. All the Pyramid drag queens for me was a very special period. The hardcore scene was special. The front door period is special. I don't really have a special. I was never into stars. I figure Patti Smith's and Mick Jagger has enough people photographing him. They don't need me. I'm more like the people of the Lower East Side, and I photographed a lot of. I have amazing pictures where nobody else in the family has a picture of the person but myself, maybe because of drugs or addiction or fires or whatever. And all of a sudden, their father, I'm the one that has a picture of him because the father left years ago or whatever. So it's a treasure. It's a people treasure. It's not a fame treasure.
Drugs, riots, fires, graffiti, vandalism, violence. Those are a lot of what you have captured over the years.
A lot.
Yeah. Not only that,
people.
People in those situations.
Right.
What's the thing that draws you to that instead of flowers or skyline?
I came up from the bad end of the working class, and we were kind of like always sort of prejudiced against, like people think of black or they think of Spanish and they think of racism. But, when you grow up in an all-white society, which I did, Western Canada, the hierarchy is class. So I came from the bad end of the working class. So there was a hierarchy there. And it was always just sort of, we had special teachers and they have discipline teachers and ex-army guys. We used to hear all this crap all the time about you guys are such bad kids. And I always thought, F you, we're as good as you are. And, I always had that drive to show. That's why I look at all these people as my people. And I think my people have a lot to shine. And so I like to make my people shine. And, maybe I got a lot of people that nobody else would photograph, and I'm okay with that, and I love the Satan City Nomad pictures.
I'm going to push up on you a little bit. My people. Do they consider you part of them? Because like you said, a lot of them that you've been shooting are people of color, are African Americans, Latinos.
Oh, hundreds, thousands of Latinos.
You're a white dude. How do you cross that? And I know you have. Is there an answer to that?
Well, I would say just the love and the passion of doing it. And I would also say the respect. And a lot of those kids in front of my door, I photographed them when they were very young. And a lot of them grew up to be obviously older. And some of them went on and murdered people, gangs. Some of them went on and taught, and they did different things. But I think that when you show that sort of honesty, like I remember this one guy who was a little bit hard for a lot of people to photograph. He said, well, you like Clayton photographed. He said, well, that's Clayton. But I think it's just the passion and the commitment. There's a moment in time, especially if you're looking through the camera, where all of a sudden it's like you touch that person. People talk about stealing your soul. That's all bullshit. What you're doing is saving souls. And you just sort of reach across and there's that tough guy there. And what I used to do is, I used to get the tough guys there. And I'd say pussy. So the first thing they would do is to laugh and boom, I got him.
I
got you.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of the tough guys, let's take a look.
So that worked better than cheese.
There's a few tough guys that we should look at in some of these photographs here. Let's see. Well, here's some of the kids, right?
Yeah, that's like Sev. He's a good graffiti guy. I remember I remember this picture like it was from yesterday.
When was it?
What's that?
When was it approximately?
This was probably early 90s, maybe.
All right. More kids, more young people.
Yeah, this is 80s, mother and daughter. And you know, this is a background. In the background was Red Ed, Eddie Braddock III, now Carol Ann Braddock. And that graffiti was Wall Street. And he is very unique graffiti because if you know Wall Street and you go back and you look at those numbers, you can tell the time and the date when that was put up.
Oh, gotcha.
So those are all like Dow Jones numbers. And apparently if you read those numbers, you can follow back through the history of that. You can find out. Yeah, you know, I photographed a lot of these people I photographed many times over the years, you know. A lot of these kids, these are like Eldridge Street.
And these are the kids that look up to you and that accepted you. And I mean, there's just scores and scores of these.
Well, I looked up to them. That's VR. He was in 333. The other guy, I forget his name. He was Ludlow. VR was in Broome Street. Yeah, I think he died. Abutu, I think his name was something like that. Yeah, this Gorgio. Yeah, there's two. Yeah, I just remember.
No one's gonna hold it.
Pete. Yeah. He used to paint with Chico, and sometimes if you see Pete on there, that's Pete from Chico.
This guy here, I've seen him around the neighborhood. I remember seeing him.
Yeah.
Right, before we go to that Jimmy Webb shot, let's go back to the chat for a second. We'll come back to some photos. So Ronnie Burns says, Ronnie Burns in the chat says, live performances are not the same anymore as the audience doesn't give off energy, but stands passively videoing their lame socials. And you know, I like that analysis. There's a passiveness while shooting, and then you're not expressing at the show. You're not really getting into it, perhaps. Welcome, John Gorick, Rosita Rosa, welcome. Ronnie wants to know, do you remember Paul Goebel?
Paul Goebel, I remember the name. I remember it was Gale of Lights. Yeah, it was on Avenue A. But probably I have to see pictures. I mean, I knew so many thousands. If I saw them, I'm more familiar with faces than names.
Katha Cato wants to know, what photo got you in trouble? Which one did?
Actually, I got a great one. You know, the cops tried to set me up on the Rakowitz murder, and that's a whole long, crazy story. And that thing came with a warrant to my house, all kinds of. That was a really nasty period. That was when the cops were really out to get me. After I got a lot of cops in trouble after the riot, that there became sort of a vendetta by a lot of cops. And so anyway, at that whole Rakowitz murder, they tried to say that I videotaped it, and this guy Patrick Chafois did a satanic ritual, and we were part of it. So I have so I went to this. I knew this woman. Her name was. I had legal aid. I met all the radical lawyers, Kubi Kunstler, Lynn Stewart, you know. But I also had a lot of really good legal aids. And this one, Sarah Jones, her grandfather had been Rutherford B. Hayes, the president, and she was really smart. But she liked the whole thing of helping the people and all of that. So we had a meeting with these two DAs that were trying to hook me up with this. So I turned around in the middle of showing this video. They thought I had this video. So anyway, I didn't, but I showed a video of an M&N show I had. So I turned around with a flash and said, oh, can I take a picture? And I'm like, click. And then all of a sudden, after the movie was over, this one guy called, there was Mathis and Galprin. They wouldn't let me out of the room. And then, so I started running. I ran down 5 flights of stairs. I was there with Elsa. We got to Canal Street. I said to Elsa, go home. I had a meeting that day with John Strausbaugh. And I had pictures of Galprin following me, holding up his hands in front of his face so I couldn't take his picture. It was crazy. Then we got to Strausbaugh. I went into his office. He says, who's the guy in the suit? I said, he's a district attorney. He said, you guys got to go. But he put it in the paper, so there's a record of it.
Strausbaugh was the editor of publisher of New York Press, correct?
He was the editor. Yeah, that's when the New York Press was great. We're still friends. He's great.
Rosita Rosa has joined the group. Heather Prescott says, good evening. Sean Baxter Washburn, great guy. He's in the house. Amy Alt wants to know, you know, Barry Weinbaum.
You got to show me pictures. I'm terrible at names. You know, especially when a lot of the people I photographed, I didn't want to know their names. You know, maybe Tree B or Mafia or something.
Email a picture into me. Jay Festa's in the house. Rosita Rosa wants to know, do you consider yourself an activist?
I mean, other people would.
Yeah, I think your documentation of the underside of New York City over 4 decades merits some kind of labeling as an activist. I mean,
Well, it was very strongly anti-gentrification, and that's a fact. I definitely had to lick my wounds in that. I got arrested 13 times, beat up by the cops. A lot knocked unconscious. You pay a price to do this stuff. But I had the passion. I was young, so it was all good.
we're going to look at some more pictures. This is Jimmy Webb, who recently just passed away.
Yeah, Jimmy was great. It's shocking how famous and well-loved Jimmy was. I mean, in this time when so many people are dying, his obit shows up everywhere. I did a piece in the New York Sun, in the Village Sun with Lincoln Anderson that I put up there, which people can look up. It's on my Facebook. But Jimmy was in the New Yorker, the New York Times. He was the Brooklyn Vegan. I mean, his obit was in everywhere. I mean, he really was loved.
I know, and I saw the obit everywhere. Of course, that's how I found out. And then I never met Jimmy. I've seen him a billion times walking into Trash and Vaudeville.
Great.
Sport, but I never really got to hang with him. Here's a few more pictures we'll take a look at.
There's Cochise, your neighbor. And that's Rocco. And that was Secret Bachelors. And the guy on the end, what was his name? I'm trying to remember. He got murdered. Wolf.
Secret Bachelors was a gang?
What's that?
Secret Bachelors was a gang?
Secret Bachelors was a gang. Wolf lived, that's not Wolf. I'm just trying to think of his name. I can't believe it. But yeah, he lived in Avenue D. They both did the Secret Bachelors. And they got patched over by Satan Sinners.
So in the chat room, Thomas Blonsky just showed up. Welcome. Jose Quiles says, great interview, Clay. Ronnie Burns says, Jimmy's a legend. Rosita, take your time with your questions because I'm not sure I understand them. So just spell them out a little bit more because I'm dumb and I'm monitoring about 80 different comments. Katha asks, are either you or I wearing pants? Are you wearing pants?
Well, I'm not wearing a skirt, so I guess I'm wearing jeans.
Okay. I am wearing.
I mean, it's casual Monday, so I guess we could be sitting around in our shorts, but I'm not.
Is this a Monday? I feel like Lebowski. Is this a Monday? All right. So what kind of police action you catching here?
Okay, that was the Four Brothers bodega on Stanton Street. Actually, the little kid that's being taken away from by the police.
Yeah, I can see that, right?
Yeah, it's Fernando's son. Fernando was sold Hellraiser. He was around the corner. Now it was fun because I didn't speak Spanish. So one day I was in this bodega, and this one brother, he thought he was like a little mafia guy. He didn't really like me. So he came out the door, and he was ripping me a new ass in Spanish. And then after I just looked and said, wow, good thing I don't speak Spanish, right? And his brothers all laughed. That was cool.
Here?
I got arrested for taking pictures on Ludlow.
Yeah, you can't take pictures with a beard like that. You'll get arrested.
This was
Bell.
Sean Bell. Yeah, this was they had some really intense police brutality protests. Abdou Louima.
Yeah, Abner Louima, Amadou Diallo. This is Sean Bell. My son and my ex-wife, his mom, we marched in this march. We're not in this picture, but we marched in this march. And then you got
there was a guy whose cousin was Amadou Diallo. He was Diallo. He lived on 13th Street. Oh, this is the zombie. This is at Wild Style, the Wild Style and Tattoo Messe. I did a book on that as well. That's this book, History of a New Idea.
Hang on, let's get a bigger picture of that.
Yeah, that's with Johan Ur. That's the Wild Style and Tattoo Messe show that I go to, have gone to for years. And this is the Zumba. Oh, this is I used to get the talent and the famous American tattoo artists to that show. And this was there was a group called Sharka and Ula. And this was Ula. And they were contortionists and they were performers from the Lower East Side. And then Sharka eventually went on and became a tattoo artist. This was the cover of the face. This was the Pet Shop Boys. And they wore the hat, which was great. So this is back in my days when I was making caps.
This is a favorite. This is a favorite guy of mine right here.
I'll tell you, it's the only time it happened to him, but I was with him and I documented. He went out to the to be the doctor when they had Hurricane Sandy, and we went out to Far Rockaway, and he was like dealing with people. He's a doctor, obviously. He's my doctor, Elsa's doctor. He's our favorite doctor, of course. Neighborhood doctor, the village doctor. And the other doctor there wouldn't deal with him because of how he looked and his tattoos. And she said, "You're not a doctor. You're not a doctor." He said, "Yes, I am." And he had his credentials and his cards, and he was doing his job, and like he does his job down here. Actually, his father had been the head of the VA, and his mother was was also a doctor at Columbia Presbyterian, and she did the not the geriatrics, but the children's thing. What do you call the children's part?
For the sake of our audience, this is Dr. Dave, and Dr. Dave has a little storefront. He's a doctor in the East Village. If you ever need a doctor, look up Dr. Dave. The New York Times has done great articles on him. He doesn't charge. He charges a pay what you can, no matter what you're doing. He won't take insurance. He's against the whole corporate insurance thing for doctors and the healthcare scams. He's an amazing man. He treated my arm when I got second-degree burns.
Yeah, his last name is Ores. He's on 2nd Avenue between A and B.
2nd Street between A and B.
2nd Street between A and B, yeah, with the big red cross there. This is the Enigma. Once again, this is at Johan's apartment, Johan Ur. It's Enigma wearing my hat. Those are some of the shows.
Is that all tattoos on him? Jigsaw?
Yeah, he's a tattooed puzzle man. He calls himself the Enigma.
Amazing.
Enigma.
So for those of you just joining us, a few of people just dropped in. Katie Ames is here. I got Thomas Blonsky, John Prada. These are the kind of people that Clayton has hung around with his entire life, has nurtured, has shined a light on. And I think it's really important. It's the cultural caption and legacy that you've mastered over the past 4 decades is just phenomenal and needs to be recognized. Jack Fuller says, how can we get people to lighten up? Unfortunately, most people would look at you and say, put this guy in jail or institutionalize him.
Yeah, I've gone through that with a lot of places. It is a problem because what happens is that, they think I'm a biker or something else. And also, it's really a class society and they're really interested in the stars, Mick Jagger. And it's very difficult. I have a huge archive and it's very difficult to try to save it because it really deals with a lot of the forgotten, the overlooked, the unforgiven, the misfits, the outsiders.
By the way, it's 10:30. The show is over. Do you want to go into overtime with me for a few?
Yeah, of course.
Well, I think our audience will dig that.
I'm game. You're game. I'm game.
I'm game. So Jack says the opposite is so true. You're full of wisdom and you're a nice guy. Jack, by the way, is out there on the West Coast. Ronnie Burns says, remember the gas station on 2nd and B? Yeah, man, I remember that.
Of course. G.G. Allen's last performance. Yeah. That was a kicker.
I did a show there. It was the iron fence with all the welders and the great artists that worked there. It was incredible.
That's right. Linus Caravaggio, one of the original Rivington School guys, went from the Rivington School on Forsyth over to 2 and B and then recreated that whole aesthetic over there.
So Katie Ames says his dad was in charge of the VA. Do you know when? I guess you're talking about Dr. Dave.
I don't. Well, they're both Holocaust survivors. The father's now dead. It would have been the VA probably, I would guess, 70s and maybe 80s. Call up Dr. Ores, O-R-E-S, 2nd Street between A and B, and he will tell you. He'll give you that whole history.
All right, let's go back to some photographs. Another incredible shot.
Mexican vampire lady. Yeah, I found her and got her to Johan Ur's Wild Style and Tattoo Massage show. She was very interesting. She's had her eyes shot so they're black tattooed, implants, tattoos. I don't know. I find them to be fabulous people, and most regular parts of society are sort of, reject all this. But, there has to be it's out of the outside where the real creativity comes. Oh, this is Mr. Fashion, Gerard Little. He was the one of the drag queens from the Pyramid Club. He was fabulous. The guy at the Modern Film, Ron Maglozzi, he loves Mr. Fashion. Jacobson, what's his name? He did some movies with him, and then he performed a lot with Peter, son PK, Peter Quaylov.
A couple questions coming up here. Heather Prescott, first of all, says thank you. So does Rosita. Rosita has a question of a photograph I think I have later on. We'll answer it. Ronnie Burns said G.G. Allen died in his building. And I think, Ronnie, we might have to have you on the show.
Yeah.
Rosita wants to know, have you ever shaved off your beard?
Well, there's a movie out called Captured, and it's directed by Dan Levin and Ben Solomon and edited by Jennifer. And you can kind of follow the progress of my beard in that movie.
Oh, nice.
Kind of going from a younger guy to now an old codger.
What is your URL, your website?
NO, capital NO, explanation mark, ART, small ART. It's called No Art. And that's done by Dietmar Kurvish. And he comes from, he's in Berlin.
Give me the whole HTTP, www dot.
Capital NO, explanation mark,
Yep.
small ART, dot whatever.
All right. Well, people can find it. Clayton, I'm putting it in the chat. A couple questions. So Becky Savell, hi Becky, and Turco Ono have questions for you. Did you transition to shooting digital still, or digital or still shoot film?
That's a good question. Actually, during 9/11, I shot film. And then after that, I got into digital. And so, you know, I've shot about probably 300,000 digital photographs now from that time, probably 2002, something like that. And it's just very accessible and it's very easy. And it changed my whole style. You know, it changed my style of shooting. It just was able to capture a lot more. You could look at it right away and sort of tell and make adjustments. I mean, I'm not sure how permanent the digital is, because if somebody owns the mountain, they can close it, or, you know, things can disappear.
Yeah.
Like you're saying with the pseudo, they're in the that mountain, whatever, locked down, and they're locked down until somebody pays. So it's different from hard copy. There's a lot of restrictions on it that people don't think about.
Turco Ono asks, Clayton, do you have tattoos, tats? If so, what is your favorite and what was your last one? Here we go, people. Here we go.
I don't normally do this, but I'll do it for you.
Oh, yeah, like stand up a little higher. Stand up a little higher or something. Lower the camera. All right. Nice.
LES, baby. Lower East Side, all the way.
When was the last tattoo you got?
I was working on one on my back by a guy called Hori Zakura. He was Japanese. He's from the Horitoshi family in Tokyo. And he was doing, and he does tabori, which is hand done. He did like one on my side, like I think this one he did.
So you are an inked up fellow. Nice. Nice.
Whatever. I can't tell. I usually don't show my tattoos. I reached that age where I don't take my shirt off.
Age too. Katie Ames, does Clayton have a goal that we might be able to support?
Yeah, I want to save my archives. There's a couple of goals. One is I'm trying to do a New York City tattoo history right now. And the gay part of it is very hard to find. I'm just wrapping the book up now. But there's definitely, you know, the lesbians and the gays, there was definitely a strong culture within that period. Like Stanley Steller photographed a lot of different parts of it. He's very important. But I'd like to, and you know, anybody's interested in tattoos and tattoo history, they can reach out to me. I can give you my email. And also, I'm trying to find ways to, you know, scan photographs, save the archive. You know, I do have a big slice of the Lower East Side, and I think it should be saved. So,
oh, no doubt.
You know, you know, when they come down here with ICP and all this other stuff, I mean, I'm not part of any of that. So
ICP,
they look at me as an outsider, an outlaw, whatever, you know, but anyway, that's on them.
What's ICP?
International Center of Photography.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It was the Bronx and Harlem.
International Corporation of Photography. Becky, Becky says, what are you shooting today?
Well, I shoot people in front of my door still with masks. You know, I'm still trying to shoot as much as I can. You know, I'm a people person. I like to document the people. And, you know, just working on different, not going out very much. You know, I'm in my 70s. I'm not supposed to go out. Elsa, my wife's 74. She's got memory issues, so I can't really bring up anything back. So I'm more in lockdown. But I photograph people in front of my door still. I try to photograph, like, you know, the garbage man, the postman.
Got to get a shot.
People working. What's that?
You're only down the block from me. I got to go get myself shot in front of your door.
You got to go down there. You got to get your picture in front of the door. I wear a mask. You wear a mask. You know, it's we're 6 feet apart.
So Keith Patchell is in the room. Welcome, Keith. Long time no see. Keith's an incredible composer.
Yes.
Keith just posted one of your websites in the chat. I posted another as well. So everybody, you can get in touch with Clayton through that. We got a few more minutes to go.
Yeah, I did. There was Keith did a chamber opera called Plane of Jars, and I did the artwork for it.
Oh, cool.
And Keith did the composition. It was great.
Petar Timotik has just come in, and Petar is a brilliant visual artist. We'll go through a few more photographs, and then we'll finish it up here.
Okay, this is Lucky Rich Diamond. I turned him onto Wild Style. He eventually got tattooed totally black. So he had really beautiful tattoos. And he eventually covered them all and became totally 100% black.
Amazing.
And he just looked like a black guy. especially from a distance.
So
Okay,
here we
that's
are.
not my photograph, but that's from the night of the
Oh, it's
police
not.
riot. I think that was in the Daily News. Yeah, that was a shot from the videotape that I did, Tompkins Square Park police riot. If you look back at those signs and things, you have to remember the city was all Democratic at that time. So we were kind of opposite of the Democratic Party. But, you know, gentrification is class war. You know, all of those signs, 1988 equals 1933, all turned out to be right. People don't get it, but this is Avenue A. I mean, you know, yeah, stop the war on the poor. Gentrification is genocide. And it turned out a lot of this stuff is correct. Oh, that's Palmer. He was this was the Christodora. The cops were always protecting the Christodora. The Christodora became a magnet towards anti-gentrification because it was really the first really sort of large luxury building in the Lower East
On
Side.
it's Avenue B and 9th Street, right on the corner.
Yes. Right
Beautiful
down there
building.
by Father Pat, 606 East 9th Street is where he is. And these are 3 residents of Tent City. So they lived in the park. So actually the park had a tent city. Oh, this is Robert Lee Marin.
What happened to Robert? What happened to him? When did he must have passed away. I haven't seen him in ages.
He just, like one of the many, he disappeared. He won a big lawsuit against the city, so that was great. But yeah, he lived a hard life. He was a very good speaker. He could really get out. There were certain people like Joe Myers, actually, from that period of time, where really could get out and rattle the people with speeches. And
I remember
Robert Lee was a speaker.
Bob, I knew him as Bob, used to hang out in the corner of 7th and A constantly, if not living there.
He lived there.
Yeah. And he always was wearing green army clothing.
Oh, this is Tompkins Square, the bandshell. They got rid of the bandshell because people were sleeping on it. The bandshell was built in the 60s, so people had a sort of relief. You can see a little person there just holding on the log. That's Sam, Cowboy Sam, if anybody remembers him. The guy on the left is Mantis. He was part of the Satan Center Nomads. And you could just read the no shelter, death camps. You know, people still think that idea is still possibly around. Housing is a human right. Hands off the park.
There's the Christodora in the background.
Yeah, there's Christodora in the background. Now that was really the first. Then the guy on the penthouse. I'll think of his name in a minute. But they built Red Square.
Yeah.
And Red Square was the first sort of luxury building around at that period of time. And his wife was a doctor. And there's one of the Clayton hats. See, you can see the hand signed signature on that. And the one.
These are your hats. You design them. You make them.
Yeah. There's Johan Ur and his lovely mate Susie. That's we made that hat for a lipstick company. What do you call it? Farm. You know, where they make fashion makeup company. And that was for Patrick Geoffroy. He was a palm reader on Avenue A. There we made a director for a director in Hollywood. That was a director's cap. This was for the Fat Boys. They had, the big gold chains, the diamonds, the whole thing. I made one for David Hockney. He had a show at the Victoria and Albert in London. We made him that hat. Daphne Hellman, she used to play the harp at the Tattoo Society. We made her the harp case. That was Ai Weiwei's first photograph that he got into the New York Times. And that was Dump Koch. And that was his first photograph. And, I was really influential on his video style. Now, he's the most famous photographer in the world. And I definitely had an influence on his video. And the first photograph he got in the New York Times was mine. But I'm not connected to him in any way. I used to the Tattoo Society. And I was the president. And I started off with a guy called Ari Rusimov. And so I used to make these cards, and all these tattoo artists hated it, but they wouldn't say anything about it because I was a president. And I thought, I don't care. It's my art. I'm putting it out there, and too bad. And those are my tattoos. And this was a big show that we had in, Johan put together this show too, actually, the Wild Style. And that was a Metapulse, was a huge show. And that's a little picture of me and all the talent that Brad Bako, McGowan.
Hey, look, check this out. In the chat, all the artists are showing up now. Petar's here. Paul Kostabi just joined us. Welcome, Paul. Rosita really digs your hats. Charisse Boyak's in the house. Andrew Einhorn wants to know if Clayton knows Geordie Trachtenberg, who was the Prince of St. Mark's and LES. You know Geordie?
I believe so. He was. He's a writer, right? and I think he wrote something on tattoos. Didn't he go to Thailand or somewhere?
Right. He had a record label, Tomato Records, I think it was too.
Okay, I remember the name. I knew him for sure. And oh, that's Spider. He's in Captured, or in the police riot. If you ever see it, he's also in Captured, but he's at the very end. Oh, we made a Batman hat. Oh, the hairdresser guy. He has his name same as Bruce Wayne, and he was a hairdresser on Batman. So that's some of the caps. So we would design a cap. You had 6 possibilities, 7. Some people we did it under the peak, and we would design them baseball caps. And now I've got the war hat, the war and the hands. So the hands mean, you know, wash your hands. You know, this is the war against the virus. So we got the war and we got the hands. So I'm trying to get this out with a guy called Julian Veloch. He just did a book called Clayton Godfather Lower East Side documentary.
Not out there, buddy. How many books are out there with you in them or from you?
Quite a few. We're just getting this one out now for your neighbor. The other neighbor you got Satan Center Nomads, Cochise. We did this book together of the street gangs in Lower East Side. Now, this is the only book that really deals with street gangs in Lower East Side. And you ask me who I want to photograph. I want to photograph a lot more of the street gangs in Lower East Side. I'd like to photograph the money boys from over your way. I want to photograph a lot of those people. You know, I do a radio show on 8 Ball Radio. We've done like the Allen Boys, and you know, it's interesting because there was a guy that used to run the dope on Avenue D between like Houston and 6. What was his name? Robert. Anyway, he's the guy that he was LA2 was in that crew, CBS. And if you remember that Keith Haring did a mural on the wall of Houston and Avenue D, and that guy was the guy that hooked it up. And he was LA2 was part of that crew. And LA2 got Keith permission to come into the Lower East Side and hang out and go to the projects and meet LA and stuff like that. And you living by Compost now, you know, you just don't go wandering around those places, especially in the early days. So LA2 hooked him up and he got permission and he gave him the rights to be there. People don't realize that shit. And that stuff is really important in history. That's overlooked and forgotten. Well,
not a lot of people wandered around Avenue C and Avenue D in those days. Today you can do it. It's not so difficult. We're gonna wrap it up. I really appreciate you spending time with us.
Yeah.
Tell me your email address again so I can put it in the chat in case anyone wants to get in touch with you.
Okay, it's my name, Clayton Patterson. My address 161@gmail.com. So that's Clayton Patterson 161@gmail.com.
All right, it's in there. You're gonna get people hopefully saying hello to you.
And the No Art website, NO!ART. That's Dietmar Curvage. Love Dietmar.
What is the one photograph that you haven't taken yet?
Well, I haven't taken one of you. That's a big one.
Ha ha! Hey man, I mean, that sounds like a setup, right?
Well, it does sound like a setup, but I'm into it. I love taking those pictures. You know, that's my thing.
I'm with you, man. Everybody in chat, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Ronnie Burns saying the Herring Wall was close to the world. John Trefero remembers Herring on Houston. Heather Prescott that says thank you. Thank you, Keith and Charisse. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. And thank you, Clayton, for taking the time, man.
Hey, my pleasure. I love it. We got to do something else together. I'm not saying I got to be on your radio show more or whatever, but I mean, we intersect in a lot of places. I mean, I got to get you to Jeremiah Newton, Candy Darling, that whole thing. That's a big history.
Candy Darling through Taylor Mead. That's how I understood Candy Darling.
Yeah.
So, yes, Michael Swiskey just says, a unique and vivid journey through the LES over the years. Thank you, Clayton.
Thank you.
This video that we just did is a small, just the smallest, it's minutia compared to the archive that he's got. So go out online if you want to know more about downtown New York City and where a lot of this art came from, a lot of this revolt came from, a lot of the
side.
You know, Google Clayton.
Big L, baby. The big L.
Big L. All right, Clayton. Peace to you. Peace, everybody. Thank you for being with us tonight. It was great.
All right. Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao.